Hello, and welcome to this virtual handheld update video, and today I'm going to go over the window capture update. Now, this update adds a pretty important new feature, but first, I want to go over real quick the layout of the screens menu. Now, of course, at the bottom, you have all the old settings, the aspect ratio, and 3D modes, as well as the ability to toggle the screen. But you also have the ability to choose which screen you want to edit. Before, you just have the same duplicate settings on the top and bottom, but now you press these buttons to choose which screen you want to edit. Oh, right now I'm going to edit the main screen. As you can see here, a choice between desktop and window source type. At the right, it shows my available sources. Now, as you can see on the handheld screen, no source is selected. If I click on one of these, it shows my desktop. I can choose whichever display I want to capture on the handheld. If I want to deselect it, I just select the one that's already selected. Now, if I go to window, you can see it populates a list with the open windows, and I can select which window I want to capture. As you can see, I'm capturing VR chat, I can capture Steam, I can capture Discord, I can capture Draco Fighter. If I click this show more, it shows additional hidden windows that may or may not be system programs that can't really be captured, but just in case, that's an option. Now, this capture mode allows you to choose the capture API. Now, this is sort of a more advanced setting, but just as a quick overview, Auto basically automatically chooses the best capture API for you. Windows Graphics Capture is the fastest, but it's not compatible with all systems. So if that doesn't work, it uses print window, which is slower. This bit BLT, despite the name, is not a delicious sandwich, but what it does is it actually removes the title bar and borders of the window, so you only see the game content. This is useful for if you want to make it more seamless and more immersive, not having all that extra stuff. Also, you can choose the capture frame rate. By default, it's set to 60, but you can also choose 30 or 90 or 120. Now, of course, the higher you set the capture FPS, the more system resources it's going to take. So you have a rate of diminishing returns. I recommend keeping about 30 or 60, but you can also adjust the slider to go from 1 to 144. Let's just keep it at 60. You also have the show cursor toggle. So if I go back and put my cursor over the game, I can toggle it to show the cursor or hide it. Of course, sometimes you don't always want the cursor showing. It can be annoying, especially if you're not using it. So I'm going to leave that off. Now, next, we have the screen enable toggle. Now, you might think that this option is kind of useless, but there's actually a pretty good use case for this. Now, there are some VR games that don't support VR controllers. So if all you want is a program that converts your VR controls into a standard gamepad, letting you use your VR controllers in a VR game that doesn't support VR controllers, and don't want a screen in your field of view, but still want something like a virtual gamepad in your hands so you can see your inputs, then that's a pretty good use case for that. Now, you got the landscape and portrait aspect ratios, all the standard ones. You can manually adjust the aspect ratio or have it auto detect. The display mode basically determines how the content is displayed based on the aspect ratio. So if it's set to stretch, it will squash and or stretch the content based on aspect ratio. If it's set to fit, then it adds these black boxes, so it maintains the original aspect ratio, but still keeping it inside the confines of the screen. Now, the fill display mode is good for games like this, whereas you could see there are these black bars on the side of the content. As you can see, it doesn't completely fill the screen. So if I set it to fill, and then to 4x3, it chops off those extra black boxes on the side and actually fills the screen perfect. Now, there are games like this that support side-by-side stereoscopic 3D. Now, as you can see, it sort of cuts the screen in half and renders the game twice. But if I enable side-by-side 3D, then it actually combines the two halves into a 3D display, so you can actually see depth. Now, I can't actually show this in the video, but believe me, you can actually see in and see the actual depth in the game this way. You also have this swap eyes toggle, which may be required for some games. Now, where these settings really shine is when used in conjunction with an emulator like Citra that can take advantage of both the dual screen functionality as well as the 3D modes. So here I have Cave Story 3D running in separate windows for each screen and 3D mode enabled. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to maximize both of these windows for both the top and bottom. Then I'm going to go over to virtual handheld settings. And for the main screen, I'm going to select the secondary window. That's the bottom screen. Now, I'm going to set the capture mode to bit BLT, no title bar. That's very important. I'm also going to disable the cursor while I'm at it. I'm going to set the aspect ratio to 4:3 custom. Then I'm going to enable side-by-side 3D and then set the display mode to fill. This way, it's actually filling up the screen properly. Then I'm going to go to the top screen, enable, and then select the Citra primary window. And just like before, set it to bit BLT, set the 3D mode to side by side. And here I want the aspect ratio set to 5:3 and set that to fill. And there you go. Now you have an immersive handheld dual screen with 3D enabled. And it just works. Now there is one more thing I want to show here, and that's this alt capture mode toggle. Now, this is for the desktop source, and by default, it's already using the faster capture method. However, some systems, like those with hybrid GPU and iGPU setups, like gaming laptops, may not support the default capture mode. So if you enable this, then it gives you access to the fallback capture modes that are actually the same as the window capture modes, as well as all the settings as well. Now, this is global, so if you check this, it will also affect the top screen as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Have fun and happy gaming!